Yeah, that's right. It's Joe here for Joyrider TV. 5 minutes early. That's right. I just thought I'd get set up. I was a little bit late last week and I felt bad for my tardiness. So I just thought I'd set up early, get on here early, make sure everything looks as it should do. And I think that rudders, that's probably the sweet spot where to put the camera, I think. Yo, what's up, James? Nice to have you on board. Haha, George, how's it going, man? Good to hear from you. White Knight 180SX. Hey, how you doing? I don't know who everyone is, but I'll have a good guess. I'm just trying to cut the top part of my face off the picture, which I believe is polite. So, hi Kush, nice to have you back. We're making a regular feature of this, which is nice. Hi, Stephen. Oh, no problem. It's a pleasure. And just while you're tuning in, I've discovered, well, I haven't discovered it, but it's been discovered for me. Hi, Frank. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a good spot, isn't it? I think that'll fit. Yeah, so some of my friends out there, hello Marco, how you doing? Have introduced me to the world of, hello from Moscow, good to have you on board. I'm sorry, but I absolutely can't read Russian. So I can't say hello, insert name here. Hello from France, nice to have you on board. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, virtual regatta. I've just discovered it and it is the most dangerous thing. Hi, Tom. Nice to have you here. It's the most dangerous thing I've ever encountered because I cannot put it down. Wood skier from Rhode Island. Hi, Steve. Hello, Rhode Island. Nice. Everybody loves a bit of rudder tuning. But virtual regatta, if you haven't yet tried it, you should check it out. It is really good. Hi, Ernie. Oh, Ernie, nice to have you here. That's Ernie, I believe, who's got the FX. No, is it, he's got a Nacra not Inter 18. Tom, yeah, same here about, yeah, it is dangerous, so addictive. And if you haven't raced before, it's a really good way of getting into racing because for me, it gives me the feel of being there with all of the pressure. And hi, Jake. Oh, you've been doing it? Yeah, Nacra F18. Do you have the link? The website is just called virtualregatta.com. And you're not going to believe it, but earlier on today, I made a video, like a quick start guide and a couple of races with live commentary, which I will upload after I've finished this. So it'll be a couple of hours because of Greek slow internet to upload it, but if you hang on for that, then you'll be entertained forevermore. I've been racing in the Nacra 17 class, which is quite a treat. Bought my first Hobie 16. Sorry, man. I'm in Tampa, Florida. I've heard that is a fantastic place to sail a Hobie 16. Yeah, so there'll be a video on virtual regatta of, and I'm not going to lie to you, I am not very good at it. I am regularly at the back of the fleet, either because I hit a mark early on the start line. You should host a Nacra race. Yeah, Jake, I think once I get the hang of it and I'm not totally hopeless, I don't want to completely shame myself. You need a... Oh, yeah, George. Yeah, gonna do it. I've got 2 live acoustic sets coming up. This is music, everybody. I play a bit of music sometimes. Doing 2 concerts. One will be on the first Tuesday of May. Surely the Belgian supergroup. Yeah, of course, man. The first Tuesday in May, I'll be doing a live concert, and there'll be another one before then for an operation called Music in Felixstowe, because I'm from Felixstowe, and I'm doing a concert for them. So I'll keep you posted on when they will be. A Renaissance man. Possibly. Epic, says George. That's George works for RS Sailboats or Sailing. RS Sailing. What's up? From Destin, Florida. We have 3 sets of rudders to tune. Oh yeah, you're in for a good time. All right, I'll just give it 2 minutes. Actually, we're probably still relatively early. Did I have it? Yeah, we're still a little bit early. Oh, sorry, I missed that one. Who 007 channel would there be another Hobie 15? Yeah, I'll do a Hobie 15 video once we're on the water. But I'll do a Hobie 15 setting up video when I'm setting one up. Hello, Christian. Nice to have you on board. Christian, a new member of the Patreons club, exclusive club, everyone's invited. Maybe mail in questions, choose a few topics to go over. Yeah, I think once we've finished with these live Hobie 16 videos, I think we'll just do a bit of Q&A. I'll have the boat completely set up with the sails up. Rudder pins preferred from Grand Haven, Michigan. Is it? Rudder pins preferred. Oh, which rudder pins do I prefer? On the 16, I'm going for the standard aluminium because if you've got the stainless rudder pins in, if you go backwards into something, the stainless ones don't break. They'll break probably your gudgeon. Will from Singapore, nice to have you on board. Nice. Yeah, so on the 16 I go for the aluminium because a lot of people use our 16s and you never know when a 16 is going to go backwards into something with the rudders down. If that happens and you've got the stainless pins, you're going to break your gudgeons. Whereas if you've got the aluminium ones, the rudder pin's going to break and save the bigger parts. On the juicier boats like the Pacific and the Tiger, which perhaps, let's say, are less likely to be used by quite so many people, I'll use the stainless ones just because they last forever and they are bomb-proof. But could rip the back of the boat off, of course. Hi, Tim. Nice to have you on board. Always nice to have you here. Hi, Christina. Thanks for tuning in. Who have we got here? Valentine, with the stainless, you could break your hull. Yeah, man. If you are not lucky enough to break your gudgeons, you could break your hull. So good reason to use the aluminium. Who have we got? Giovanni. Yo! Hi, how you doing? When you come to Mauritius, I'll be very happy to make a ride of you. Yes, excellent. Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Yeah, if you didn't know, I've just hit 10,000 subscribers. This is massive for me. I never thought that me talking about sailing, hi, Ben, was going to be quite so, would have quite as many people into it, but it clearly has. All right, should we get on with it? Yeah, thanks, James. So once I start getting on with it, I'm going to stop responding to every single comment that comes on. Otherwise, we'll never get to our destination. Giving it the beans, the bottle, saving the environment here. Oh, that's juicy. I know it's a bit early for a gin, but I just love rudders. Okay, so hello, it's Joe here for Joyrider TV, and today we're going to talk about servicing, fitting and servicing your rudder assembly. Here we've got a Hobie 16, but this system is the same for all Hobies, which apart from probably the new plastic boats, the Wildcat is different, but everything other than that is the same fundamentally. So what we're going to look at first, hi Damien, Damien from Mozambique, nice to have you on board. Damien's got a Pearl. That's like halfway between a Tiger and a Pacific, in case you didn't know. Do you speak French? No, sorry. No, I probably more than I know. I did it at school. Anyway. Hello, Igor from Brazil. You've got to say hello to Brazil when Brazil tunes in, haven't you? Anyway, yeah, so we're going to start off by just having a look at the rudder stock and getting that ready to go on. So we could, of course, just put the rudder stock straight on the boat, put it all together and off we go. But we want the rudders to be absolutely perfect. So we're going to give it the full service. Just shared your live with Hobie Cats Facebook group. Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Maybe a few more people will tune in. I think having your rudders nice is very important. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to inspect the rudder cam. So in fact, what I'll do is I'll just let you know how it works. So we've got a big screwdriver here. In fact, in a minute, I'll show you what tools I've got assembled. All right, just give us a tick. Okay, so as you would be aware, the rudder system comes in two parts. This part we would call the lower casting, this part the upper casting. Inside the upper casting, we've got this piece, which is called the cam stop plate. And this is adjustable on this slider here. The further forwards we put that slider, the more it's going to tuck the rudder blade under the boat. With a Hobie 16, probably up until something like 1990, maybe 85, because I couldn't really say, hello, Jelly Bean Bomb Gamer, nice to have you here. Yeah, so on all boats, on all 16s, having this slider all the way to the front is the right position. There should never be a need to file out this recess to let it go further forwards. All that's going to do is stop you from being able to put the rudder down correctly. And then how it works, I am going to, there we go. That was just a bit of magic there. Is we've got the cam stop plate, and that locates, when the rudder goes down, that kind of comes back here. Have you ever broken a mast? Yes. Never file it out, says the middle-aged guy learning how to skate. Check out his channel if you want to learn how to hurt yourself in more new and exciting ways. Okay, so the cam stop plate pushes the cam into the down position, and that locks in there, and that is how your rudder locks down. And then when you lift the rudder up, if you pull it up by the bar, the theory is that that pushes this nose up, which flips your cam back up. But as we know, sometimes that doesn't happen. Yeah, okay, I'm not coming to Mauritius until February at the earliest. There you go. Or if you pull the rudder up by the blade, that pushes it forwards, which does a much better job in bringing the cam up. And then what we've got underneath the cam, just going to get something else. Is we have the cam like this, and then underneath the cam there is a plunger. Oh, you've got the old system. I have to see photographs of that to see how it works. Then we've got a plunger, then we've got a spring that goes on here, and underneath the spring there's a plastic screw which we can adjust the tension on. So if you want your rudders to come up easier, you loosen the screw. If you want them to stay down more, like here in Vasiliki, when we're regularly giving it the beans in a lot of wind, thanks David, then we wind them up pretty tight so that the rudders definitely won't come up unless we want them to. Yeah, so we've got the cam, the plunger, frozen screw, oh man, bad days, spring, and then the screw. There we go. That is your internal anatomy of the rudder system. We'll move on to the point. So if the cam isn't in good condition, the rudder is never going to stay down perfectly. So although this cam's looking pretty good, I'm actually going to change the cam. My Hobie 16, I can't adjust this plate. Oh, 1986. Drill it out for resetting the cam. Yes, and yes, same on a 14, yes. If the cam is locked down, the old favourite technique is you stick a screwdriver in there, a big one, the biggest one you can find. And it's like in Hogwarts, twist and flick. So we're twisting it and levering it at the same time. I put the screwdriver through my hand now. If this is on the boat, it's a lot easier. So there we go. That resets it. But it's not great for the cam. Hobie has a tool for it. Good to know. Yeah, we've been building tools for it here. If I see one, I'll point it out. But yeah, so I'm going to replace the cam, because if your cam isn't in good shape, I'm not going to be answering any more questions. Favourite Hobie, the 16. Because if I answer everybody's questions that aren't related to the job in hand, we'll never get there, and I've got a barbecue to light. Yeah, so we're going to replace the cam, because if the cam isn't perfect, we'll never get it to lock down perfectly. So before taking the cam out, we're going to loosen the screw. If your screw is seized up, which if you haven't looked at it for some time is very likely for it to happen, then you will need to remove it. Somebody suggested a while back sort of heating the screw up with a blowtorch and kind of melting it a bit. That didn't really work. The only way that works is to drill it out. I have made a video, would you believe, on this, which you can check out on the channel. So I'm just going to loosen that off, but I'm not going to take it out completely, because it can be rather painful to get back in. That's about as much screw as we've got. And then we're just going to knock it out. Okay, so I'm just going over here. You could come too. Hold on. Okay, we're now mobile, and here we are. This is this old game of where do we put the camera. Hold on, I've got a slightly... In fact, hold on. I'll bring the whole thing. Sorry about this, terribly unprofessional. How are we seeing here? Dry film lubricant, yes and yes. All right, can we see that? Yeah. Okay, I think we can see that. So what we've got is a tool that I've made by cutting the end off a screwdriver, and then I've filed this down a bit with a grinder to get it the right kind of size so that it will go into this hole, but not into the middle of this pin. There is a different type of pin that I believe is quite readily available in America, which is a screw one, which I think is much better. But in Europe, we just get these pins, and we're just gonna knock it out like that. And I'm going to try to do it without dropping it. Is that enough? A little bit more. In fact, I'll bring that over here. This is gripping stuff, I know. A little bit more. There we go, the pin has come out. And when you withdraw your special tool from here, it's worth putting your hand over it, because otherwise because it's spring loaded, this can all just go flying everywhere, which is a bit uncomfortable. All right, so there we go. Just going to bring you back up here so that we can have a chat about this. Hello. All right, so this is something to consider. As well as your cam looking good like round here and here, the most important bit of the cam to look good is the hole in the middle. If that hole has become elongated, it's not going to rotate correctly. It's going to go forwards and backwards a little bit, meaning that you're never going to get that good lockdown. Hi, nice to have you on board. Welcome to Rudders. So there we go. Murray's seems to be the place to go if you're in America. So we're just going to try it by popping the pin in the middle And we want that to rotate freely on the pin, but not to move. I'm going to get a brand new cam, because we keep all these parts in stock, of course. Hi, Daniel. Yes, elongated hole. Yeah, so where to get Hobie parts from in Europe depends which country you're in. Pretty much every country has got a dealer or a network of dealers where you can get the parts. If you're in Holland, then catparts.nl is the place to go to. They've got everything that you need. There's a lot of dealers in Germany, in France, in Italy, and in the UK, you go to the Hobie Centre in Poole. If you need me, or in fact, just go to the Hobie website and there'll be a whole matrix of dealers. All right, so we're going to put this in. How long do cams? It really depends on how much you use the boat, but for us, using the boats every single day in a lot of wind by a lot of people, some of these people don't treat them very nicely. Would usually change the cams about once a month. Thank you, Carlos. Yeah, nice to have Canada here. Yeah, once a month. And in fact, that's how often I'm trying to service the rudders on the 16s, is once a month. But I think if in the real world, where maybe you're just going sailing at the weekend, servicing your rudders maybe, what, twice a year, something like that. But I'll show you once we've got it done how to check to see if your rudder needs servicing, and then you won't do it unnecessarily. So we're going to put the cam in. I'm going to change the camera angle back to down here. It's tricky because I'm looking into the sun. How's that? How's that? Oh yeah, that looks good. Sweepaway cams are, yeah, cams are yeah, they don't last forever, that's for sure. All right, so what I'm going to do, we're taking our special tool. By the way, it is absolutely honking here today. It's so windy and we're not allowed out, but for the right reasons. So I'm going to push the cam into position with the palm of my hand, and then I'm going to take the special tool and just put it in to hold the cam in position. I'll then flip it over, get it so it's totally located there. And then we're just going to start knocking it in. Like how we knocked it out earlier, we're going to knock it in. Right, doing a bad job here. So much easier in the workshop environment, as you can imagine. So I'm just trying to keep that in the right spot. Put it in the other way around for no particular reason. All right, just bear with me for a tick. Yeah, going to use improvised pieces here. There we go. And we're in. So there we go. Now we know that that cam is going to be good. So I'm just going to flip that back over. There we go. And I'm going to bring you back to the boat. Here we go. Sorry, I've been away. I couldn't see anything that was going on. Okay, so a good. Hi, Peter. Nice to see you. Nice to have you on board. How can we see this? Like this. So a good starting point of where to put the screw. If we have it too loose, the rudder will come up when you're just going along. If you have it too tight, the rudder won't come up at all. If you have it a lot too tight, then what that will do is compress the spring so much that the spring is no longer a spring. It's just a solid piece of metal because you've totally compressed it, and that can cause trouble. So the good starting point is with the plastic screw just flush with the metal, and that is where we'll start with. Roll pin. That's what that's called, isn't it? Roll pin. Thank you. Okay, so that is the cam and all of that taken care of. We'll put a little bit of grease on that later on. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the rudder pin. If your rudder pin's looking really old and, what's a good word, gnarly or bent or not factory fresh, they're not particularly expensive. So I think once a season it is worth replacing your rudder pins. And we're going to put the rudder pin just into the stock with it not on the boat and just see if there's any movement in there. And that is a significant amount of movement. So what is the question here is, has your stock already been drilled? When the stock comes from the factory, it's not been drilled. So it means we can't put any bush in. Don't forget marine grease on the plunger. Oh yeah, grease everywhere. Yeah, so we're going to grease it once we've got it on the boat, just to reduce the risk of getting it everywhere. So we're going to start doing a bit of bushing. Just going to get some bush. Here I've got a reasonable amount of bush. Just bear with me a tick. That's it, I'm just getting the right bits of bush out of my little pot. All right, here we go. All right, so we're gonna insert the bush into the casting, but and this top one, you've got to love a good bit of bush, is gonna go in from underneath, because otherwise that bush can just pop out the top. So with the rim just underneath, and we can see that bush is pretty loose. So what I'm gonna do, I dare say some of you have got a slightly more elegant way of dealing with this, but I'm just gonna wrap some tape around the bush just to make it a bit more snug. There we go. All right, so let's see how that is now. Okay, a bit too much tape. You can see where this is going. We've got to get the right amount of tape on the bush to have the snug fit, but so that it will go together. All right, in fact, we're going to start again because I've made a mess of that bit of tape. You could use for a more, perhaps less agricultural look, maybe plumber's tape. What do we think? Good idea? But it's not something that we stock, but maybe we should. All right, so I've gone for less tape there. Oh yeah, oh yeah. In you go, love. Oh yeah, there we go. So that bush is snug. We like that. And then just got to put a few more bits of bush in. Oh yeah, that one's not going in. Okay. So as well as all this bush is available from Hobie Cat in whatever country you are in. So as well as having the full bush, I've taken some of the bushes and cut them in half, because some of the places where you have to stick your bush won't accept a whole bush. All right, lovely. And I just need a bush in the bottom there as well. And again, we're putting the kind of cap of the bush on top so it can't drop out. But again, we need to just put a bit of tape on there because she's a bit loose. Okay. All right, here we go. Here we go. Once again, too much tape. So only yeah, that is it. Plumber's tape that we need that they use on the pipes. I think that would give us a bit more accuracy. Bushings. Bushings. All right, so there we go. Now the rudder stock is ready to roll. So I'm just going to put that aside, and then we're going to have a look in exactly the same way at the back of the boat. And I can already see this bit of bush that's in the top of the gudgeon there is pretty worn. So he's coming out. And how about these up? So we've got 3 bushes, or generally a half one in the top, a full one in the middle, half one in the bottom. So total of 2 bushes. Yeah, so he's coming out. Middle one is good. So just going to replace the top and the bottom. Yeah, probably more than 30 knots here today in Vasiliki Bay. Would you believe? Very good conditions. I would, in the current situation, if I was allowed out, I think the Hobie 14 would have been looking pretty twitchy. I think that would have been the choice. Okay, so just wrapping a bit of tape around this half bush, which is going to go in the bottom. Going easy on the tape. I seem to have been going a bit excited on the tape. Oh, but this one wants more tape. You can never get it right. 14 turbo. It's just, well, it's a 14 with trapeze, but no jib. Can we call that a half turbo? Because I believe the 14 that is the racing class is no trapeze. Is that right? Is there anybody on who races a Hobie 14 like at national, international level? Do you use a trapeze? That is the question. Okay, just putting more and more tape on here, and here we go. There we go. That is good. Now we can attach the rudder stock to the boat. This is the moment we've all been waiting for, and she's going to be tight. What we're looking for is no movement. So having bushed it, it's going to take a little wiggle to get her in there. That's it. And then can you put a bushing on stainless steel old style gudgeons? To be honest, I don't know. I don't see why not, but whether this size of bushing would fit, that is the question. All right, so just a little. Oh yes, says Sean. Nice one, well in. So I'm just going to give her a little tappy tappy. Oh, before I go full tappy tappy, one thing to look out for. Part of the kit that you should have for your rudder servicing is a file. If the end of your rudder pin is, sorry, 2-piece gudgeon, the pins are loose, gudgeon holes are not big enough. Oh, I didn't quite catch all that. I'll read that afterwards and respond. If the gudgeons are worn beyond the limits, Hobie makes a kit to drill the gudgeons oversize. Yeah, so if the end of your rudder pin, if it's been bashed with a hammer, it'll get a bit fatter, which means if you then put it in, you're going to knacker the bushes you've just put in. So you're allowed to trapeze on the Hobie 14 Turbo class, but not on the Classic. Thank you, George, our man with the research there in the south of the UK. George used to be one of the main instructors here at Wild Wind Sailing Holidays, and he's very good at it. Now works for RS Sailing. If you want to find out about the RS range of catamarans, have a chat with George. Yeah, so take your file and just kind of put a corner on there to make sure that's not going to hurt your bush. Anyway, so now we're just going to do a bit of light tappy because it is so snug, because we've done such a good job. And then we can feel that that is hello. Oh, hello, welcome on board. It's good to have the old school guys here and the new school, all schools welcome. So that is pretty good there. I'm not going to lie to you, it's not perfect, but I'm trying to get through this relatively quickly. I'm now going to put the split ring in the bottom, very important. Even though that's tight, we don't want the rudders falling off when the boat is upside down. Okay, so what we're going to do next, in fact, before we even look at putting the rudder blade in, is we're just going to have a look at the inside edge of the rudder stock here, and we're looking for any bits, like if it's been banged at all, you might have a bit sticking inwards slightly, which could put a nasty gash in your rudder blade. So we're just going to have a look at that, and then again we're going to take the file and we're just going to take any bits that are sticking out off, just to give our rudder blade the best possible chance of not getting a big scratch in it. Nice. And that's the same for the upper rudder stock. Still loose. Oh, it's not that bad, Damien. It's this, I'd say this level of play will be all right up to about 23 knots, which I would say is enough for most. In fact, probably good all the way through. The thing is, if it's not perfect when you put it on, it's going to wear a bit quicker, so you might as well get it right while you're doing it. Okay, so we're going to get the rudder blade. Okay, this is of course the EPO 3. I could talk indefinitely about how good these rudder blades are, but just by saying that, you should know how good these rudder blades are, and well worth the money if you're going to be sailing fast. Don't anybody ask me questions about the rudder blades, because we'll never get any further with the fitting of the rudders. So the trick here is, what we're going to do is we're going to put some shims. Shouldn't you be working? Oh, ouch. So we're going to put some shims in between the rudder stock and the rudder blade, again to prevent wear and to reduce a bit of movement. This is the method that I have found to work the best, especially if you're on your own, is we're just going to put a bolt through from each side. And we're going to take these shims. If you haven't got these, all you need to do is find like a plastic container, like an old detergent container or something, and cut it however big you want it, make a hole in it that the bolt will go through, and then there you are. Of course, it needs to be the right kind of thickness, so you might have to find the right piece. This is one that has come from Hobie, which apparently is made out of Teflon. Apparently. Yeah, so there we are. And what we've also done in the past is taken plastic and actually glued it onto the rudder blade. All of the rudder blade which sits inside the stock, which is nice too. But I didn't want to do that with the EPOs because it does look pretty ugly once you've done it. So what I'm going to do is just sit these shims on these bolts. It is pretty windy, so there's a chance they might fly off. And then we are going to allow the rudder blade to come inside. Actually, one other thing, especially if you've got a slightly older boat, if you can't get your rudder to lock down correctly and you've done everything else, you can't work it out. One thing could be these holes, if they've got bigger, or if the insert in the hole can move around, then that might be where your movement is coming from. Another one while we're here is if when you're sailing you're feeling like you're getting lee helm, which means you have to push the stick away from you to keep the boat going in a straight line, then it could be that your rudder blade has become separated. The rudder blade is made of two halves with a joint down there. Scotch tape will, okay. Yeah, I can see that that would work. Some double-sided would be good, I suppose. Yeah, so if the two sides of the blade have separated, you might see some cracking going up there. Then you really need to address that quickly, because the strength of the rudder blade comes from this being a unit. Once this unit becomes two separate bits, then it's going to be really bendy and very easy to snap your blades. This is one of the things that the EPOs have never done, which the White Knight rudder blades were doing quite regularly, was cracking down the glue joint in the middle. Got to always pull the rudders towards me. Ah, that might be because they're sitting too far back. So we'll have a look at that in a jiffy. All right, so let's introduce that. As we push it in, we're just going to pull the bolts out a little bit. And there she blows. Very interesting what you're teaching us. Thanks. Hey, it's a pleasure. I am reasonably enthusiastic about rudders, so it's nice. I much prefer doing this than the trampoline last week, which is not my favourite. Hey Joe, this is Pierre from France. Do you also put these plastic Teflon rolls in the castings? Oh, I didn't quite get to the bottom. Probably, but I don't know. If you're talking about a different type of boat, if there's play, then putting these sort of plastic bits will help. On the Hobie Tiger and Pacific, which have a similar casting but it's a different shape, I take some foam rubber, what do you call it, like Pro Grip is what it's called. It's used for the grip on the sides of monohulls like here. And then I actually glue it to the inside of the stocks, and that does an amazing job at taking the movement out and makes the rudders really stiff and good. Okay, so then, yeah, sorry Pierre, I didn't quite get all of your message. I'm just assuming that's what you're asking. If you're going to write a message, keep it short because they only stay on the screen for a second. With the tent, this is something that does need adjusting or checking every time you go out. Just the tension in your nut and bolt there, because if it's not a new nut, that can get, yes, upper casting, yes, for sure. Oh, is that what Pierre was asking? Yes. All right, we're doing that. So we're just going to tighten that up, and then you see that's moving up and down really, really easily. That's for a Tiger, yeah, perfect. I'll show you that at some point, what we've done to the Tiger stocks. So it's still too easy. So what I'm doing is I'm going to wind this up until the stock kind of holds a carbon rudder blade's worth it. I would say no. Sorry, any carbon rudder blade owners. The EPOs are the only ones worth the money, the big bucks. Otherwise, I think the carbon ones are only as good as the White Knight rudder blades. They look cool, which is a plus point. The only ones which are actually stronger are the EPOs, because the carbon ones, they've got the same problem with this glue joint separating as well. And once that's gone, then your blade is gonna snap. It's just gonna bend, boat's gonna feel dirty, and then it's gonna snap. All right, so you can see how the rudder blade is kind of just restricted slightly when it falls down. That's the kind of tension we're looking for. Happy? Yes. All right, let's get the upper stock on, and if I can find it, here she is. And then we're pretty much cooking on gas. By the way, we're just doing one rudder for now. Hope that's okay. Interesting. They're more expensive. I've got the EPOs. Oh, the carbon ones are more expensive. Ooh, they do look cool though. All right. So I'm just doing the same thing with the upper casting. I've recruited another bolt. That's right, you heard it here first. We are just doing one rudder at this time. Sorry, I didn't get that. Yes, says Peter. Ah. Okay, and in she comes. So you see I've got a bolt on both sides. I always like to put my bolts in from the outside inwards. The only reason being that it's nice to do it all the same, but also I think the threaded end of the bolt is more likely to put a gash in your leg than the outside if you go off the back of the boat. Maybe, is that a good reason? Dolphin striker, but there's 3 measurements. Oh, I can't read all that, Paul, sorry. It's too, these messages only stay up for a jiffy, which isn't long enough. Oh, she's snug. There we go. Just gonna see where we are. Nowhere near. Up a bit, down a bit. Oh yeah, up a bit more. Okay, and we're there. And we're going to do the same with the tension on this one, just so that it doesn't just kind of flop like that, so that it has got a little bit of resistance. So just winding that up. Nothing so far. You need to take a speed reading class. Yes, certainly do. Okay, so that is a little bit too tight. That's going to be difficult to put down. That's a little bit too loose. We're looking at Dolphin Striker. I read that there are 3 measurements take along the hull. Oh, this is new information. If there's a link, Paul, just put it in the main comments of the video afterwards, or on maybe on the community thing. You're measuring the hull count. Yeah, how far? Like that. Got you. Okay, that's good. We've got a bit of resistance there, but not too much. Okay, now we can lock the rudder in the down position. And there we are. So we're locked in. But now that the blade's on, what I was saying earlier about it not being perfect is really quite, I should have put more tape on this bushing at the top, because we can see that is moving. It'll be fine, but it's not perfect. And perfection was what we were after, but we have failed on the perfection. Because up here, the movement is a little bit, whereas if we look at the bottom, that amount of movement is amplified down the length of the blade and becomes quite a lot. What Steve was asking about heavy steering, that you need to pull the rudders towards you all the time. If the rudder blade comes back, in fact, I could simulate this just by, so if the rudder blade was to be sat like this when you're sailing, your steering is going to be extremely heavy. So when you're setting the rudders up, you really need to get it tucked so that the rudder's almost coming under the boat a bit, but definitely so it's going as far forwards in the stock as it possibly can without it touching the hull. There we go. Like I said earlier, the way we adjust that is with this screw on the top, and on a 16 we're pushing that screw as far forwards, thanks Steve, as far forwards as possible, which is going to tuck the rudder blade under the boat as much as possible. Okay, so that's all good. I think we're happy with that. And then the other thing we're looking for, we'll just come for a behind view. That is there an adjuster screw on the lower casting? Yeah, I've never actually used that. There's a screw that, not all of them have it. There's like a screw that goes in like there, but the rudder stock doesn't always have that, and I've never ever used it. When you buy the EPO rudder blades, they actually come with a bit of rubber stuck to the front edge to get them to come back a little bit. But then the stocks that we've got have also got a bit of rubber stuck in there, which I think does the same thing as the little screw. But again, we're just trying to have it as far down as possible. I think that bit of rubber is just to stop it from touching the hull. All right, the other movement that we are concerned about is sideways movement. Can you see that is just moving a little bit sideways? So forwards and backwards, if it goes backwards, it's going to be really heavy. If it goes sideways, what that's going to do is that's going to lead to the rudders stalling. Rudders stalling is like when you're going fast and suddenly it feels like someone's thrown a bucket out of the back of the boat and the rudders just stop working completely. That is the rudders stalling. So those are the movements that we're trying to take out. And by putting your boat on a trolley or on your trailer and checking that, that's how you know if your rudders need servicing. If you're just sailing in light winds all of the time, you don't need to worry as much as if you're going to be sailing in heavy winds. But certainly if you're going out sailing and you're going to be double trapezing, it is essential to get the rudders tuned up nicely. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to look at is the tension on the spring. How much is the right amount? Funny you should ask. All right, what I'm going to do is just put this line on here just to hold it kind of straight. And for those of you who haven't seen before, you're not going to believe this, but I've got a very special device for measuring the tension in that cam. And what we've got, not looking too clever, I haven't used this for a bit, quite obviously. So I've got a set of luggage scales. You could use digital ones if you want a more accurate reading. And then I've got a piece of rope with a loop in it. What we're going to do is we're going to put that loop around the rudder blade approximately, oh, you can't quite see that, can you? Let's move you back. There we go. Approximately there. So what's that? 30 centimetres from the bottom. Need to make sure the boat isn't going to move. I've got a bench wedged under the hull, so I'm feeling reasonably confident. But you could get a family member to sit on the bow to stop the boat from moving, and then we're going to pull it, and as we pull it we're going to look at the gauge, and what we're looking for is, for here I'm setting them at 14 kilos. I know elsewhere you're going to want pounds. What's that in pounds? 30 pounds. 30 pounds. Whereas in the real world, you don't want them quite as strong as that because you're unlikely to be sailing in as much wind as often, and having them tight is going to stop the cams from coming back up when you lift the blade. So I'm looking for 14 kilos, but I've just got that screw at the kind of rough starting point. So let's have a look. That's 10. Well, that was about 30 pounds. That's right, Steve. Yeah, so that was actually about 13 kilos. So I'm just going to give it like 1.5 turns on that screw. Now, I could tell you this for free. This, what I'm about to do, is an absolutely horrible thing to do first thing in the morning if the night before you have been on the sauce. Because you've got to find the screw, and I'm just going to give it just about a turn there. So now I'm going to put it back down. Same sort of measurement there, it's about 30 centimetres from the bottom, give or take. Just pulling it there. Bingo. That's pretty much bang on. Also, I would say, if you're sailing somewhere, hold the sauce, check. Yes, exactly. If you've got to do that the next day, or do it before the sauce. How many kilograms would you recommend a Hobie Tiger sailing 20-25 knots of wind? I would go, if you can really bang it in, about 12, 13 kilos. The thing with the rudders is on a 16 or even more so a 14, the amount of stuff you've got in the water, the rudders are quite a big percentage of everything that sits in the water. Whereas on a Tiger or a more modern design boat, there's a lot less rudder in the water as a percentage of the total amount of stuff in the water. And so for that reason, the rudder isn't getting as much load on a Tiger or an F-18 or a Tornado or anything with sensible shaped hulls. The rudders aren't getting as much load. Whereas the 16 and the 14, probably out of all catamarans, are getting the most, all non-foiling catamarans are getting the most load out of everything, which is why on the Hobie 16 it is so critical to get the rudders set up nicely. Whereas on a Tiger you can get away with a little bit more, and certainly you wouldn't need as much tension in your spring. Yeah, so if you've got the option when you're going sailing to have, firstly when you're leaving, if you've got the option to have someone hold the boat at the front and you can actually put the rudder down from in the water like this. Oh, sorry. Thanks. Interesting explanation. Yeah. Does this apply to classic 18s? All of this, yeah. Classic 18s, exactly the same. But the classic 18 is a bit more like the Tiger, where you've got a bit less rudder compared to the amount of hull you've actually got sat in the water. So less critical than a 16. So if you can, I know for most people it's not possible, but if you can actually put the rudders down by standing in the water and putting it down like that, that's gonna help to keep it from wearing. Whereas if you're doing it from the boat, it is a little bit more haphazard and less precise, the putting down of the rudders. So, but I know for a lot of people it is essential that you do it that way. The same for when you're coming in. If you do have to lift your rudders by the bar, then of course you do have to. But if it's possible, like perhaps you've got an offshore wind and someone can hold the boat next to the beach at the front, or if the water is not so deep that someone can hold the boat at the front, or somehow, like here in Vasiliki, we've got it absolutely perfect because the water is just the right depth. So we keep the rudders down until we've actually parked the boat. Then someone will go to the back of the boat, grab the blade at the bottom and then pull it up. Some people who are established, we'll actually do it with the foot. Very nice. And that means your cam isn't going to get as worn, and everything is going to be a lot happier for longer. How often do you re-grease everything? I just do it every time I service the rudders, but the amount the boats get used here, I should probably be doing it a bit more often. So yeah, with the greasing, right, I'm just going to use the big screwdriver, and I've got some grease here. This isn't my grease. I've just borrowed some for this because I didn't bring any up with me. Let's bring you in a bit. We're almost done, by the way. Hope everyone's had a lovely time. I'm just going to put a little bit of grease on the screwdriver. I'm just going to stick a bit in to the rudder cam there, where the cam stop plate is going to go, and a little bit on the plunger, and then when that moves, that will all get worn in, sort of spread out nicely, and there we are. So there we go. I hope that everybody's got something out of that. I know that some of you know how your rudders are working already, but hopefully there was something there of value, or you were just happily entertained to come along for the ride. 3 to 5 mil of toe in. Yes, agreed. On a 16, 3 to 5 mil of toe in. I can't remember all the numbers off the top of my head, but I did a video in September, I think it was, about rudder alignment, which has got all of the information there. And like I said, if your screw toe in, that's like, if the rudders are straight, they're like that. Toe in is like that. So your rudders are always going to be slightly in. Thanks, Peter. Thanks for being on board. Because as the boat flexes, and also the leeward rudder is always going to be under more pressure than the windward rudder. Yeah, also, if you... Oh, hello, what's that say? Oh, some grease in the threads. Yes, yeah, Tim's just saying, grease your threads. Thanks, need to go. Yeah, nice one, Damien. Thanks for being on board. We have been going on for an hour now. I think that's enough for anyone. Yeah, grease the plastic screw as well to keep that from seizing up. And definitely, once a season, when you take your boat apart, or more often, just give that plastic screw an in and out, just to make sure it's not seized up. And then if it is seized up, I've made a video on what to do called Recondition Your Rudder Stocks. How speed does... Yeah, I think that rudder hum costs you a bit. What you can do for that rudder hum is just gently rub down the trailing edge of your rudders to make it flat, because sometimes the rudders at the back edge come to a point which is really thin, which vibrates. Whereas if you've flattened it, it's less likely to vibrate and less hum. Yeah. Right, so I'm going to go now because I've got a barbecue to light and some souvlaki's to have. Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks. You can find some of the parts on my Amazon affiliates shop front thingy, which you'll find if you look at any of my videos. You'll find a link there. Otherwise, thanks for coming. Oh, sorry, I couldn't read that, Victor. It was off. Yeah, plastic screw gets stuck. Check out the video. I'll put a link somewhere. Okay. Dry film lube if on a sandy environment. Top tip. Right, watch out for that. Top tip. Top tips everywhere. So there we go. I'll be back next week with putting up the mast, which is very exciting. or on Friday with some stretching. Want to see you all at the stretching. Some of you are looking pretty tight. And then also there'll be a video later on this evening about virtual regatta. Thanks, Nitro Hero. Yeah, virtual regatta, highly recommended, really fun, and you'll never be bored ever again. You'll just be slightly frustrated because there's clearly people who've been doing it for a while. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, and I'll see you next week for the mast. Need a live BS session. BS? BS. You'll have to fill me in there, James. Yeah, thank you. Hope it's all good in Russia just now. Thanks very much. And the sail rigs. Yeah, we'll be so next week, boat stuff, maybe. We'll be putting the mast up next week, and then perhaps the week after that, we'll put the sails up and start pulling some bits of string. Love it. Oh, just for a chat. Just for a chat, yeah. I agree, James. We'll do that as well at some point. A question answer. Okay, cheerio.